Hi, Andy. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, great to meet you, Tim.
Likewise, exciting to talk to you about your career today and Sporting Group. You've been in the industry for a number of years, so I think a great intro would be if you could kind of tell us about your career, maybe starting from the beginning in the early years in gaming.
Yeah, sure. I started in the industry, God, over 20 years ago now, where I left my career as a financial trader in the city to set up a new spread betting company, SpreadX.
Yeah.
Um, Originally helping them build a financial spread betting customer base, but eventually taking over as their head of trading of their sports business. And fantastic fun it was too. Looking back, it had everything that you'd want from a startup. There were ups and downs, seat of the pants stuff sometimes, but I was amazed at how little adoption there was in the industry that I just joined around algorithmic trading and automation.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, coming from the financial sector, I had seen and used firsthand the technology and processes that were utilized in the financial sector, how they drove efficiency, but also created new products to trade. So there was none of that. So I began to instill the disciplines that I had seen in the financial sector into the team at SpreadX. And slowly it began to bear fruit. I had a great 5 years there, loved every minute of it looking back. Probably didn't love it as much quite at the time, but built a fantastic team where we're all learning, had some great experiences that I still draw on today, really. And then after leaving SpreadX, I spent periods managing sportsbooks across mainland Europe and Australia, from Blue Square, Stan James, BetClick, the number one sportsbook in France that had a very large European footprint. Ladbrokes and Tabcorp, I was taking on a lot more responsibility, not just focusing on trading, but also product, retail, VIP management, risk and compliance. And as I said, SpreadX were a young team. We were all new to the industry at the time and would look back at Sporting Index and just admire their business and try and replicate everything that they did. It's strange that I now find myself CEO of Sporting Group, and it's not just spread betting now, but has expanded into B2B business built on the foundations of quantitative trading, statistical analysis, and the practices and core principles that go back over 30 years when the company was founded. So yeah, very pleased and fortunate to be here.
To pick up on your kind of early career there, what was it like for you personally, comparing kind of the financial sector that you were in previously and then the one you moved into, the gaming and the SpreadX?
Yeah, I don't want to just pin it on SpreadX, but my early assessment of coming out of the financial sector was that the parallels were so close to what we were doing in trading functions within sportsbooks compared to the trading functions in the financial sector, but they weren't alive to the technology and the automation that they needed to adopt to take it to the next level. So I guess that's kind of where my experience, you can see it across all the places where I've eventually gone, is that I've looked to upgrade firstly their trading functions through technology, but just the disciplines and the processes, and ensure that they're scalable to move those businesses forward.
Yeah, you mentioned Ladbrokes as well, obviously a big brand and obviously now part of Entain. You spent a few years there. Can you kind of walk us through your time there? What were your kind of biggest takeaway points and learnings?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was based in Gibraltar at the time as sportsbook director of BetClick, where I was managing their three brands, and the call came from Ladbrokes to become the group trading director, which I couldn't turn down. I wish I could have stayed at BetClick a little bit longer. I was really enjoying my time there, but the pull of Ladbrokes, joining their executive leadership team, and the fact that they're the oldest bookmaker in the world, and although it had lost its way a little bit, it was still the number one brand in bookmaking in the UK. So I just couldn't pass on it, really. Again, I found in my role that the more sophisticated trading and risk management processes were still not being utilized or embraced at the time at Ladbrokes. And much of my effort, again, was creating and modifying the technology that enabled them to move forward as a business and upgrading their processes. I worked with some phenomenal people. It was exciting, given the autonomy to upgrade their trading function and work with a team that was eager for that change. I guess where SpreadX was pretty much a blank canvas, Ladbrokes was definitely somewhere I had to win over the team, a hearts and minds approach, if you like. So there was a lot of change going on at Ladbrokes at the time, and we as a team tried to harness the benefits of the past, being the oldest bookmaker, you know, trust, reliability, heritage, but also convey modernization to appeal to the younger demographic coming through, which had probably been neglected by Ladbrokes previously. We also needed to harness our physical footprint with the 4,500 retail outlets it had at the time. And so omni-channel experiences were the key watchword that we used to talk about, and ensure also that we were compliant with all the changes to legislation and gambling laws that came through during my time there. So never a dull moment. And it culminated in the merger with Corals, which was quite a lengthy process. And I represented Ladbrokes at the Competition and Mergers Committee to gain approval for the combination, and then leading the integration effort once the two businesses came together.
You mentioned as well Tabcorp, and another big brand along with Ladbrokes, but very different because obviously that's Australia. What was it like, kind of, you know, you moved to Australia? Any culture shocks? Did you pick up a bit of an accent? You know, what was it like working at Tabcorp?
Well, it was warmer, that's for sure. Did I pick up any accent? I started calling data, which is something that they do. So yeah, I guess I did pick up a bit of an accent coming back. People still think that I've got a bit of a twang sometimes. But the challenge was very similar, really, in that it was a very large corporation, a behemoth, if you like, that had maybe not moved as fast as the smaller operators there had in terms of digital adoption and how the landscape was evolving. The added complexity with Tabcorp and with Australia in general is that each individual state is run like its own country. It has its own license obligations, its own regulator, its own government, as well as its own individual racing bodies that are hugely powerful, particularly in New South Wales. So managing all those external stakeholders and their individual expectations was the biggest challenge, really. And you're trying to retain their influence, deliver their goals, as well as making sure that you're delivering the strategy that you've built. So that was the biggest challenge. The other surprise really was the product mix. Was a bit of a shock. 85% horse racing, which again didn't really reflect how behaviours were changing across Australia, and the younger demographic betting more on sports, particularly US sports like NBA, which is obviously on a much more convenient time in Australia. So we had plenty to do, and I had plenty to learn, particularly on the stakeholder management side. But we launched a new end-to-end strategy for the wagering business, almost going through a reset as Tats, who we merged with, which was the biggest merger, company merger in Australian history at the time. So we had a big integration there, went through a reset, and then also trying to deliver the synergies that any combination has expectations with. So yeah, very excited, enjoyed my time there immensely, really.
Yeah, so some big brands there, some key learnings, as you say. You kind of, some of the trends you mentioned there are kind of obviously big for your career, but they're just kind of synonymous with the modern history of the gaming industry. Really, these are kind of, as you say, omni-channel. The changes in Australia, the changes and you were there for Ladbrokes Coral, which of course was, you know, a historic merger, as well as the one you just mentioned in Australia. It all culminates now in you currently being CEO at Sporting Group. How did that role sort of come about for you? It's kind of the most recent move to this role, and how would you kind of reflect on your time so far as CEO?
Yeah, I mean, I went to Australia really to gain multiple jurisdiction experience, because I thought that all roads led to the US, really. So I came back from Australia wanting to have a crack at the US, and I had some interesting consultancy projects on the go, but was looking at a couple of new opportunities in America. And that seemed to be where all the excitement and all the growth was, still is.
Yeah.
But very much out of the blue, I was contacted by FDJ, who own Sporting Group and had acquired Sporting Group a couple of years ago, and they were interested in my profile, obviously with having worked in spread betting, helping set up SpreadX and working for BetClick in France. That obviously grabbed their attention. But for me, the size of their ambition, but also the component parts of what is required to become a market leader in B2B, I think they had it all. And then that added to the pool of managing a brand like Sporting Index, who are rightly branded as pioneers in the industry, not just in spread betting, but Sporting Index really changed the way that all sports books manage their trading, in terms of how the disciplines that they introduced into the sector. You know, they are pioneers there. So again, it was too attractive to turn down, really. In terms of my time here, you know, meeting the people is obviously, it's a modern day challenge at the moment with everyone working remotely. But I've onboarded some new people, and our focus is very much on the B2B now, not necessarily just the US market, because our footprint is so large in Australia and across mainland Europe. But it's really just looking for accelerated growth now, accelerated growth on the B2B business. I'm very pleased that we've still got the Sporting Index brand as well. And that is obviously still very much revenue generative, and there is a great scope for growth there also.
I mean, you just touched on a few there. What are the company's main goals and targets at the moment? So especially, I guess, if you look at it in terms of 2022, as we're quite early into the year at the moment.
Yeah, as I said, B2B is where we see the big growth with the gold rush at the moment going on in the US. Yeah. We know we will continue to capture business through our market leading trading capability, and how the market is evolving, again, not just in the US, but across the globe. Trading and risk management capability is excessively time consuming and costly to build from scratch. And with escalating acquisition costs and the requirement to continually upgrade your user experience, your apps, that is rightly where operators' focus should be. So we can provide a completely outsourced service for trading and risk management, as well as a hybrid approach should you wish to remain responsible for particular sports or events. We will provide you the tool to be able to do that. So it is completely down to the individual operator and how much control they want. But we also now have a platform, so we can offer the real turnkey solution, not just for new operators, of which there are many, but retail operators looking to shift to a platform that can handle both digital and retail, similar to what we've done with the Ontario Lottery in Canada most recently. But also it will appeal to operators that are dissatisfied with their current platform provider, which we often hear about, and I have a little experience with, obviously being in this industry for the last 20 years.
Sure. Now, you might have heard of this little thing called the World Cup later this year. Obviously, from a sports betting perspective, expectations are really high from the industry as a whole. You know, I've heard that because it's in November, actually betting wise, there's even bigger expectations than if it was in the summer. How are kind of you guys approaching it? What are you? Have you got any specific plans for it? What's kind of the focus for you guys with regards to the World Cup?
Yeah, we have got some big plans for the World Cup. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be interesting to see how this event is handled and managed. You know, it being the biggest event in the world that comes mid-season for most countries. So seeing how they manage that's going to be very interesting. But let's hope it will be a real celebration and putting all the problems and the pandemic behind us. So really looking forward to it. We've got a number of projects or products that we're looking to launch ready for that World Cup that I can't go into too much detail at the moment.
Sure.
But Sporting Index on the B2C side always captures the fun of these events with our new and unique special markets. And this event will be no different. We'll be ensuring we work with all our individual partners on the B2B side to meet their strategies and their objectives. Tailoring our offering to dovetail with their strategies is going to be key for that event. But with the condensed sporting calendar as the world reopens, if you like, there seems to be a marquee event every other week. But I think the Football World Cup really is the perfect end to what is going to be an amazing year for the industry and for Sporting Group.
Absolutely, yeah. Got a couple of final questions focusing on the year and maybe kind of a little bit beyond that. For yourself personally, as an exec and as a CEO, have you got any kind of personal goals, ambitions, or kind of targets for 2022 and maybe beyond as well?
Yeah, my objectives are clear: to continue to expand the B2B business across the globe and further unlock the innovative products that we have on our roadmap. I'm really excited by the solutions that we're going to bring to the market to allow operators to overcome some of the increasing challenges in the market on trading and risk management, and reduce the burden and change operators' views of platform providers through closer engagement. And that's going to be an important part of our strategy this year and beyond. Is how that we get individual operators to be invested in our strategy and us to be invested in theirs. So I want to propose new products to them that are going to solve some of the challenges that they're going to experience tomorrow, not just today. In addition to that, and probably more importantly, I aim to manage and lead the workforce at Sporting Group and build a culture that nurtures that innovation, a new environment, a new progressive way of working. And I know that a lot of companies, not just this sector, are looking at the challenge of a hybrid working approach, and that's something that we often talk about in our management team meetings, how we can make sure that we retain the workforce and make it attractive to bring new people into the business.
On a last note, if we're looking at 2022 as a whole, I know we mentioned the World Cup already, and that's I think undoubtedly, as you say, going to be a celebration, hopefully a big highlight. But if we put the World Cup aside, what are you guys looking forward to, I guess, most, if you could single something out this year?
Well, we're moving to new offices in London. We're opening up a new office in the US. And the way the year has started already, there's so many opportunities for us that we're working on. We're looking forward to 2022 being a transformational year for us, where we continue to grow across the globe at pace by leveraging our heritage in trading and risk management and delivering new products to the market. I'm also looking forward to meeting many of our partners face to face for the first time, and also, again, more importantly, meeting some of my team.
Well, Andy, best of luck with everything this year. And hopefully, as you say, everyone can meet in person soon. And thanks very much for your time and for your answers today.
Thanks a lot, Tim.